Good afternoon. My name is Dawn McKnight, and I am the Executive Director for the Independent Association of Home Instead Franchisees. On behalf of the association, I would like to welcome you to today's webinar, Are You Throwing Your Marketing Dollars Out the Window? Before we get started, I just have one housekeeping item to share with you. Please type your questions into the chat, as Emily has built in stopping points to answer questions. Before I hand things over to Emily, I'd like to share some information about her. After building franchises that served 1 million hours of care annually for Home Instead, Emily Isbell recognized the challenges her franchisor faced in providing direct guidance. Motivated by this firsthand experience, she embarked on establishing her own venture, EI & Company, to help solve this problem. This company specializes in co-leadership services tailored for home care business franchisors and franchisees. Emily, now a speaker and consultant, serves as the founder of EI & Company. Functioning as a third-party partner for franchisors, EI & Company actively engages in the operations of franchisees, offering personalized guidance aimed at enhancing profitability. Now, I will hand it over to Emily to begin the presentation.
Thank you so much, Dawn. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you having me back. Last time Honor decided to do a town hall meeting at the same time. And so I appreciate being back here and getting a chance to talk to more people about what others learned last time. So just to make sure we keep with the flow, I'm probably going to go pretty fast. The good news is it's recorded. And so as a recording, you can go back to it and hopefully get more the second time. By the end of today's session, you're going to be receiving the Lost Revenue Report tool to evaluate the results of your conversions from every client lead that you have in your business. A few housekeeping items. I want to encourage you to be interactive, specifically in the chat, and don't be afraid to ask questions or make comments. We're going to take breaks for questions, but definitely ask away in the chat as they come up. I also want to encourage you to have a beginner's mind. Something that we do with our clients is we classify clients in certain categories, either emerging, evolving, and established. Emerging are newer owners, younger offices. Evolving is they're more established than a new office, but they're still not hitting the goals and revenues that they would hope to have achieved by the time that they're in at the course they're at in business. And then established is more at the higher level of revenues and been around for a while. And so I bring that up to tie back to the beginner's mind, that even the established ones in here, I would ask that you have a beginner's mind where you think, well, even though I feel like we're doing a lot of this right, what is one or two nuggets I can take from this and learn from it? So as even the most basic things can be tweaked. At the end, we're going to briefly discuss our Powerhouse Peers service, and we're going to talk about a webinar informational meeting we're having tomorrow to talk about that. And I'll just quickly say, in case anybody has to roll off, Powerhouse Peers is our performance group that we offer that I joke and say it's like Performax on steroids. We really amp it up and try to make sure that our clients have exceptional results. And there's a little bit of a surprise addition to that we want to talk about tomorrow compared to what we've talked about before. All right, so before we continue with the content, I want to let you know that my team is here. They're on the panel right now. It's Sarah, Matt, and Sam. A couple of those people you may know and have seen before. Sam is newer to our team. She's going to be the one that's coordinating with you and any questions you might have in the chat, and making sure to interrupt me if there's something that needs for me to pause to make sure I answer. You guys can wave again. Thank you all for waving. I just do a little dance. All right. Next, I want to tell you my story and let you know my background. For most of you, I think you know that I was with Home Instead, and it actually started when I was 19 years old. I was a caregiver starting in college. And right after my first shift, I realized how exciting it is to know that there is a profession that can help seniors provide jobs and give back in such a way that I actually completely changed my trajectory on my college career. I went to the owner and asked him, how can I be you one day? And he wisely just said, I can help you. And so fast forward to, actually, let me back up. because it's funny that this also happened. I actually remember sitting at my apartment and inquiring to be a franchisee with Home Instead and filling it out. I'm 19 years old and I have zero assets. If anything, I have student loans. I've got no reason for them to consider me as a franchisee. So I'm sure I never heard back from them. I'm sure it just went right into the delete pile. But nonetheless, that's how much it just hit me that this is something that I wanted to do. Fast forward to a year and a half later, I was promoted into the office, into the HR department. I did a lot of different things in that department, anything caregiver facing that wasn't specific to their schedule. During that time, we grew our caregiver pool so much so that we could host caregiver meetings in a conference room. And then by the end of my time in the HR department, we had to build out and develop an entire training center just to host 4 caregiver meetings a day to make sure everybody came in to get that information. For every quarter, we would do that. So our caregiver pool greatly grew, our retention greatly grew, and our business, of course, grew. So it was always understood that I would be in conversations with the owner, that we wanted for me to oversee an operation for him. He would be the person who purchased it, and I would be the operational leader, and he could be absent. That was something we talked about very early on, probably shortly after I got into the office. And so after working in the office for about 5 years, just a little goofy picture there, but we ended up reaching out to the home office and saying we're ready for him to purchase another office and for me to oversee it. And when he did that, even though we were a very successful franchise, they said no. They did not want a general manager who let the owner be completely absent to be in place. And so as soon as they said no, and he pulled me into his office to tell me that, I said, they need to meet me. They've got to meet me. They have to know that I'm not just a typical employee, that I'm invested in this. And so, new grad, nervous, we fly to Omaha and meet with the senior leadership team, and somehow I convinced them to give us a chance. And so I'm pretty sure they were glad they did that, because we began to grow that business in the specifically Franklin, Tennessee territory. There wasn't a year that I wasn't on stage receiving some sort of award. The problem is that I was living on a diet of Starbucks and McDonald's. I was not healthy. I wasn't enjoying my personal time. I say because I had moved, I didn't establish a dentist and didn't go to the dentist for 4 years, which is a horrible thing to admit to, but it was true. And it was a result of me just being so dedicated to growing the business and not taking care of myself. And so I was at my least healthiest state. So 2016 comes around and I tell the owner, I can't do this anymore, that I'm glad we've grown, but this is not for me. This is not sustainable. And so we actually put the business up for sale. And we're working with prospects, and one gets so close to purchasing, I walk her around the office. I introduce her to the admin staff. They don't know why she's there, but it's just kind of a nice little tour. And I'm thinking about all the things that she would need to do in order to succeed as a business owner. The things that weren't in place yet, systems and processes to make sure that she, as a business owner with 2 small children, could survive. And I went home that night, and there was a combination of things that happened and thoughts in my head. And I really did have one of those light bulb moments that if I could do it for them, if I could think of these ideas and know what needed to be in place for them, why not do it for me? And so the next morning I call the owner. I tell him, let's change our minds. Never mind. I don't want to sell. I know I can do this. That wasn't popular. And they, of course, the prospect who was going to purchase was deeply disappointed. But even so, it was a good decision, because fast forward, we went from having the 2 units that were already established to 7 total units underneath our portfolio by the time that I left Home Instead. So here on the screen, you can see the growth that every unit had as a result of us coming in, acquiring them, and doing the turnarounds that we did within them. By the end by 2020, Don already mentioned it, we were serving 1 million hours of care annually. So I want to tell you my why of bridge the gap of if that was so successful, why not still be doing that? And the reason why is because for two reasons. COVID happened, but I didn't leave because of COVID in the way that you hear a lot of people talk about why they left during COVID. We actually grew exponentially during COVID. We embraced the fact that we were essential once we knew we were essential and leaned into that. And I had so much gratitude that I didn't have to worry about job security, and my team did too. But what it did do was more personal. It made me realize that tomorrow may not come. As much as that's morbid to say, we were seeing things on TV and knowing that people were dying. And so it just kind of, it hit me that tomorrow may not come. And so backing up to when I had that conversation with the owner about overseeing offices and being an operational leader so he could be absent from them, I had told him, I said, you've got me till I'm 45. So I'm around 20 years old, and essentially I gave him a 25-year notice of when I would be leaving. And he knew that, and he knew it was because I had an entrepreneurial itch. No matter what, I wanted to own a business one day, and he knew that. Well, with COVID happening and tomorrow maybe not being guaranteed, I didn't make it till I was 45. I made the decision then that I may not see 45, so I need to do this sooner than later to make sure I follow that dream. So I took some time off and ended up starting this business. And the reason I started this business is because of who you see on the screen there. That's my grandparents. And to keep it short, they had a bad experience with a homestead homestead franchise in their territory that they lived in, which was not my territory. And then two, they had a bad experience with an independent home care provider. Both experiences just showed me that people don't know what they don't know. And sometimes it's just a matter of putting in systems in place to make sure and protect the senior on the end. So my goal here is to elevate the care of seniors and caregivers throughout the industry, regardless of who they are with, franchise or not. So the goals of this presentation, now we're going to get into the content. The goals of this presentation is to, by the end of this presentation, you will have organizational systems to capture every lead. Number two, best practices to teach your team that will provide the caller confidence in your services. That little ribbon is just a note of a best practice, so you'll see it throughout the slides. That little ribbon just tells you it's a best practice. Number three, all attendees will receive a lost revenue report report tool developed by Matt Hurley that showcase you and your team the impact every lead has on the business and what it can cost you or earn you. And so we're going to keep going. I want to talk to you about subtle accountabilities. I use this a lot with clients. Subtle accountabilities are the things you put in place to hold you or yourself accountable, but are more obscure and less direct and confrontational. So an example might be, on a personal note, if you're trying to eat better, it might be a subtle accountability for you to put a bowl of fruit on the table in front of you versus tucking it away in a drawer in your refrigerator. That way it's out front versus the donuts that might have set out on the table. So that's a subtle accountability to yourself to eat more fruit if that's something you're shooting for. So I'll talk about that throughout this presentation. So organizational systems to capture every lead. Number one, you want to develop data tracking. Number two, a hierarchy system. Or number three, an expert callback system. And number four, handling after hours. So creating systems, organizational systems for that. We're going to focus on service inquiries today, but many of the approaches can be applied to care consultations as well. I also know that there are some people that the home office is supporting their service inquiries and getting them the consultation. I still think this is worth learning from because there's nuggets you can take back to even provide the home office with how you want your procedures in your office to be. So I've realized there's differences there, but hopefully within this you will have nuggets as well. Okay, so first ask of engagement. In the chat, I want you to name some KPIs that you might track when it comes to service inquiries, things you would want to know. And I'll give you the first one. Number of inquiries in a particular period would be an example of a KPI that you might track. Don't be shy, and team, if they are shy, I'm going to quiz you. Timmy says track to Care Console, converting. Let's take it further and go past the Care Console. What else might you track? How many closed versus not? Type of clients, hours by an RPN. I can't tell which team member that was, but good job, team. Time it takes to convert. I like that, Tiffany. Oh, it was Mindy. Oh, it wasn't a team member. Great. Way to go, Mindy. You've learned a thing or two. All right. So moving forward, I'm going to show you guys a snapshot of the lost revenue report that Matt has created. This is what you'll be getting at the end of this, and where you can plug in numbers. And so it includes a lot of what you guys said, the number of inquiries, the number of assessments scheduled, to use WellSky terms, maybe care consultations is what you actually say, assessments completed, clients closed. It doesn't include the RPN and how they heard about us, but that is a recommended item to track, just not necessary for this particular report. But good job, guys. All right, we're going to keep talking about data. So something I like to say is data over dopamine, or data over lack of dopamine. So dopamine's a good hit. It feels good. It's like, that's a win. So for example, if you had somebody who is really good, or sorry, not really good, but somebody closes a service inquiry into a 24/7 client in care consultation, then you might be pumped and excited and say, wow, she or he should do these forever. This person needs to get all inquiries. That's a decision based off dopamine, not data. And so while it happened once, it's not necessarily enough data to make that decision. So we'll talk about this more, but the data tracking at bare minimum is service inquiries, care consultations scheduled, care consultations completed, clients closed, and then the breakdown per staff member. So in order to combat what I just said happening, knowing a breakdown per staff member on the service inquiries they close, and having and tracking that. Now, Salesforce might do this for you if you use Salesforce, but just like with any software, data garbage in is garbage out. So you got to make sure you're actually tracking it properly. But you need to know who is really good at this. I often say that an A+ team member is maybe a C- closer. And so you want to make sure, just because they're really good at a lot of things and supporting your team and supporting the business, that doesn't necessarily mean they're good at closing a service inquiry into a care consultation. So keeping a track of how they're doing. Now, it might throw you off to see the non-program. This is what we used in our businesses, and the exact chart that we would fill in. The non-program just means private pay. We started calling it that because people would think long-term care. We would want to put long-term care with private pay, and that would throw people off with our team. So we just basically said non-program to make sure it didn't throw people off. All right, to get into a more established place. So what I just gave you was basic, emerging, evolving, or established clients should be using. But in a more established businesses where you have those basics handled, you might start to track potential versus recommendation versus outcome. So what does that mean? That means if a caller calls and they explain what's going on for their mom and they need help during the day while they're at work, maybe it's 6 hours a day that the person on your team is evaluating that they need just from the inquiry alone. It's very minimal data or minimal information to make that guess, but that's what they're hearing. And so that's 30 hours a week because it's Monday through Friday. When the person that goes and does the consultation gets to the home, they might discover this person should not be alone at all. And that means that they need it 9 hours a day so that they're there before the daughter leaves and they're there by the time when the daughter gets back. And so the potential versus the recommendation, and then what's the outcome. There's a lot you can do to a lot of information you can gather from that and evaluate as you start to gather that data. So that is more of an established concept. Okay, next, best practice. You want to schedule a service inquiry training with your team on a frequent basis. So First step, let me back up. At the very least, do it once. Schedule it once, but I do recommend doing it on a frequent basis. So 2 to 3 weeks from now, or 4 to 5 weeks, depending on your calendar, I would set a date and strongly consider doing a lunch and learn over service inquiries. And in that email, you want to explain the goals of the training. By doing that, by saying our goal is to make sure we're answering the calls professionally, that we're providing them with confidence to know that we're the right place, couple bullet points, you're already establishing a subtle accountability to your team on what you expect them to do when a caller comes in, makes a call. So then number 4, begin to prepare that agenda. Why the training matters, importance of the first 5 seconds of the caller's journey, and then the expectations of the systems you're implementing. So I didn't say this before, I said but I didn't really highlight it. But by the time we're done with this section, you're going to be deciding whether or not you want to do a service inquiry hierarchy or a callback version. And that's what we're going to be talking about. And so with this training that you would set up in the future, it's teaching them what you expect. Now, again, if the home office is managing your service inquiries, then it's a different subject line, or it's different meat of the meeting, but nonetheless, I would still have this meeting in place to make sure people understand your goals with how you take care of not wasting those marketing dollars. So going back to the bullets here, number 4, the importance of data tracking in the evaluation period, and introduce the calendar of scheduled ongoing service inquiry trainings, and that maybe they'll be listening to recorded calls and reviewing that data. So just establishing and opening the door for this type of accountability and structure for your team is a good first step to up the ante for your team on how they handle calls coming in. One thing I'll mention is be careful not to overcommit. If you don't believe you could commit to it monthly, don't do it monthly. Maybe you do it quarterly. I will tell you that in the 14 years that we did this, in the last, I would say 4 to 5 years, we did this monthly, and it was, I would never go back. The monthly part was key. The fact that it kept it front and top of mind on how crucial these calls were to everyone in the office was really important. Let's see. All right, we're gonna show a quick video. I did not test this morning. Worked last time we had this training, so I hope it works again, but I do have a link here if not. So we're gonna watch a quick video and talk about it. Hopefully. Okay, I might be stopping my screen share for a second and playing it. There it is.
Dad, can I have some ice cream?
No, buddy, it's almost time for bed.
Don't let this happen to you. I'm gonna teach you how to get what you want from your parents. Let's do that again. Dad, I really missed you today. Can we share a bowl of ice cream and talk about our day?
Sure, buddy.
Yes! You gotta figure out what's important to your parents. For Dad, it's quality time. And for Mom, it's something else. Mom, can I play my video game?
Honey, you already played your video game today.
Let's do that again. Mama, can I do that for you so you can take a nap? That is so sweet of you. Yes, thank you, honey. Thank you, I love you. And when I'm done, I'll go out and play my video game. Just because it works for me doesn't mean it's gonna work for you. You gotta figure it out yourself. Got it? Go get it! Hey, Dad, wanna play with fire?
What?
Beginners.
Okay, so that's a cute video. He definitely understands the idea of salesmanship. But back to the hierarchy system, what's on the slide now is the idea of making sure you don't have the people who want to play with fire being your first person that talks to someone interested in services. We want to make sure we know we have the right order. So by tracking and knowing who's closing over a period of time, you can evaluate your data and assign the order during that upcoming service inquiry training. And I want you to keep in mind that it's fairly weighted. So for example, if somebody has had 3 calls and they closed all 3, they would have 100% conversion, and that's impressive. 100% looks really good. But you have somebody else who's had 20 calls and they converted to a point of 75%. Their percentage is lower, but they're probably pretty darn good. And so just make sure you, back to data over dopamine, don't get excited by that 100% without considering the weight of the data. Let's see. So I just repeated that. How do you implement it? Something about the key about the hierarchy system, a couple of things. One is we did this for about 10 years in our businesses, and it works well. Like there was not a broken system when we stopped doing it and we converted to the callback, which we'll talk about here in a second. So I don't want you to think this way is the wrong way. You need to evaluate your office and the strengths of those who are completing the inquiries, the number of people you have available to do it that can do it well. So there's a lot to consider there. But the thing you need to do before this training is to develop some samples of scripted communication for warm transfers. So for example, here it says, "I'm so glad you reached out. I'm going to put you on hold for just a moment so that we can provide the best support possible today." That simple sample script is vague enough, but builds enough confidence with the caller that they have called the right place, that they know they're going to be taken care of. Similarly, the next one is, "You have called the right place. I'm going to get you to our team member who can better answer all of your questions. Can you hold a moment, please?" So in this example, because we're doing the hierarchy system, we keep it vague. Our team member. We don't say we're going to transfer this to Sam. We're going to transfer this to Matt. Instead, we say our team member, because the hierarchy system is the idea that they're going to speak to someone who can handle their call right now. And if the number one person appears to be available, either your phone system shows you that or you see them over there, as soon as you put them on hold, something could change. And so you don't want, for the caller side, for them to think they're going to talk to Matt and then Sam picks up. That's going to disappoint them, and it's subconsciously you're not building trust. This person thought they were going to talk to Matt, and now they're going to talk to Sam. So a good way to just prevent that mistake and a feeling for that caller is to keep it vague. Another thing I want to point out is making sure your team understands just how vulnerable this person is. It might just be a typical Tuesday for us and our team, but for that caller, this is the first time they've ever made a call like this before. And so we really want our team member to to understand how valuable and important that relationship building moment is. And something as a little hack that I heard once before and then started doing is just having a service inquiry form that is in a different color. That way that people know whenever this caller is talking to them, or whenever this team member is on the phone and they're writing on this one special color that means service inquiries, everyone else in the office knows that they're handling that call and it needs to be taken care of with the utmost respect. So you don't want to hear, "Hey, what do you want from Panera?" in the background because you have this colored document for them to know, oh, they're on a service inquiry, especially in offices where it's more cubicle and people don't have closed doors. So that's just a little sidebar, a little hack that you can use. Another thought on that is that you can do this. You need to embrace pen and paper still, not completely lose it, because for the caller's experience, if they're sitting there and listening to you type the answers of any of the questions they're having into Salesforce or in anywhere, they hear the typing, and it's I like to think about what is happening on the subconscious level. They're envisioning talking to Comcast or whoever, a cable provider that just hasn't been a good experience before, because we've all had that. And so we don't want them to feel that way about us. We need to stand out and feel like they're the only person that matters right now to that team member. And so I do want to encourage you guys to use pen and paper and take those notes and put them into the system later. All right, next on this is number 4. Let's see. Provide your team with instructions on warm transfers, which we already talked about, and then set expectations on undivided attention to the caller. And that colored document is a way to do that. It doesn't matter what color, just that everybody knows, hey, the green paper means they're on a service inquiry. So with warm transfers, I want to dive deeper into that. It says here, initial team member, hi, Emily. I have Miss Jones on the phone calling about her mother who has dementia. Her brother lives out of state and she is the only one local. She's looking for help in the mornings while she is at work. So essentially this is Sam telling me that there's a caller on the phone and this is her situation before I talk to that caller. And from there, because Sam did a good job telling me a brief bio of why the caller is calling, I would then say, hi, Ms. Jones, this is Emily. I understand you are needing support for your mother during the mornings. Can you tell me more about what is going on for your mother? Having some sort of understanding, I like to use the baton analogy and the idea of passing the baton. This warm transfer, the second team member, me in this case, saying that says that I listened to Sam, that their story mattered when they told it to Sam. And then when I came to them, I had a basic understanding of their story. And that meant that, using the baton analogy, it wasn't dropped or fumbled in between Sam and I. We held on to it together. We understood who we were talking about. They were what mattered and was important to us. And then we picked up from there. So it's really important during the warm transfers that they understand that the person receiving the transfer, the person higher up on the hierarchy, is continuing that story with the caller, so they don't feel like they have to start from scratch. Okay, so the expert callback system, different option. You would, of course, want to start with evaluating your data. If none exist, you want to start collecting data for 1 to 2 weeks, or depending on the volume of inquiries coming into your office, maybe a little bit longer. And then you would determine your expert based on their results and who is converting more. Consider the weight of how many calls they took during that time compared to others, and determine your expert. And depending on their title, you might consider giving them a secondary title. So if it was their recruitment coordinator and we're doing a warm transfer and we're going to say, I'm going to transfer you to Susie, our recruitment coordinator, that might sound a little strange to the caller on the other side. So I would recommend giving a secondary title. It also just elevates this person to know that they have received this appreciation from you, that they do a really good job at these. And so I would recommend the title of home care expert. So in that case, I'm going to get you to Susie. She's our home care expert, and she's going to be able to help you. With a callback system, key point is she may not be available. So we're going to talk about that more, but that's assuming that you know for a fact Susie's right there and available. So number 4, create a callback form and callback email template. So the form, again, would be a color that stands out. In your case, now you're doing this callback version, something for people to know, hey, don't yell what you want from Panera in the background. And so again, old-fashioned pen and paper is key. The template would be a caller's name, getting the caller's name, getting the service recipient relationship to the caller. Is it their mom? Is it their daughter? Or is it their dad, father-in-law? Number 3, a brief synopsis of needs. Number 4, best time to call back, getting a range that works for that caller. And number 5, best phone number and email. And I just remembered that I forgot to include a key one. So number 6 or even number 2, how they heard about your business, making sure you know the RPN that deserves to get that gratitude. So be sure to add that. If you take a screenshot of this, take a big red marker on it and make sure you add that. Getting that data is so key in case you were to lose that warm/hot lead. So that brings up another point. Is it risky that you're going to lose them? It is, but I can tell you that when we did the service inquiry hierarchy for 10 years compared to when we started doing the callback system in the last 4 to 5 years, we didn't see a major drop in results. It did not change really at all. I don't think it's a broken system either way. It's really, what does your business need? It is a risk, I won't deny that, but I think it's how you handle that call and how you teach the process here in terms of when they take that information about getting that, about the information about that caller to the to Susie, for example, that they provide confidence and peace of mind to know that you guys can help them. That caller, the initial person talking to them, if they just see this as a checklist and get this information, then that person's going to hang up and talk to the next competitor and possibly get treated better. And then that's how you lose them. So it's really key in how you let them know we're here for you and you've called the right place. Number 5, you want to set realistic expectations and place them boldly in the template. Consider a checklist to be checked off on. So for example, emailing a template within 5 minutes of call ending. And what I mean by email template, let me back up to that, is that when you do it this way, the old-fashioned part is a form, and you guys can tweak this, of course. These are your businesses and the way you want to run them too, but we're beginner's mind and trying to take nuggets from it. But whenever you do a email template, it might be that it says subject line is service inquiry in all caps, something that triggers Susie to know this is an important call, important email. And then within that email, the template would have the caller's name, service, and everything, and how they heard about Home Instead. A follow-up secondary insurance policy would be to place the form on the expert's desk. So when send the email template, but also put the form on the desk, because that'll stick out when they come back from a bathroom break that they have an email that they need to see. And then of course, then you can even go further than that and send an instant message text. Honestly, my personality type, I do all 3 and make sure that that's on the checklist, and just to make sure this person gets responded to. And so you might, for realistic expectations on when the best time to call back, don't say 15 minutes. That's not safe for Susie. Anything could happen that prevents that being possible, and you don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. It is better to do 1 to 3 hours time frame, and you're asking them what they want. So they might be telling you that the best time is after 3 today because of X, Y, or Z. So making sure it's realistic for Susie to accomplish. Okay, so handling after hours, you want to determine your system for after hours. And so I don't believe the home office is supporting that this fully at this time. And if I'm wrong, then I apologize. But this is still important. We need to make sure we're taking care of those calls, even if it's Saturday at 2 p.m. So is it the on-call supervisor? Is that the system? Is it the expert callback process with a separate on-call rotation that individuals who have the best percentage of closers are in a separate rotation of taking these calls on the weekends? And we're talking, even in our largest office, 1 to 2 a weekend at most. I mean, sure, we had some weeks where that might have been different, but on average, it was 1 to 2 calls that may happen in a weekend. And then the other option is you just wait till Monday, that the person on call takes the information and lets them know that it'll be Monday before Susie, the home care expert, can call back. So you need to determine this and make sure that's established with your team before that service inquiry training you would have with them, and communicate clear expectations. All right, before we move on to the next subject in our goals today, what questions maybe do you have regarding systems, if any? Or team, is there any clarity you think I should achieve? All right. Well, we still have a lot to cover, so I'm going to keep going then. So a recap of best practices that we've already talked about. Subtle accountabilities, finding ways to put subtle accountabilities into your business. Number 2, combining service inquiry trainings with lunch and learns. Number 3, create a calendar of ongoing service inquiry trainings, using pen and paper with technology, and using checklist. Best practices. Providing the caller confidence in your ability to care. So some best practices that I want you to consider having in place if it's not already in place. Set up a phone system for success. Having hold music or a commercial about your services. It is worth that. I know it takes work to always make sure that's in place, but for the caller's experience, hearing how they can be taken care of even while they're on hold is really key. So I love what Home Instead has offered in the past of having a commercial about your services. Number two, having an after-hours system where they can push to speak to someone if they're interested in services, so that they don't feel like they're calling and speaking to an on-call supervisor, but that they just think they're going to be taken care of right then and there. You can set up your approach to that, but that is one thing I think was very key about us, is that people didn't feel like, oh, I'll wait till Monday to call. They just knew in order to learn more, even on a Saturday, they could get to someone easily with minimal barriers. Number two, follow the sales process. We're going to talk about that next. Needs discovery, provide solutions, and gain commitments. And number three, create a clear expectation on setting up consultations. Does your team member have autonomy to choose as to when the schedule will be? Do they have access to a calendar to make sure that we don't have to tell somebody one thing and call them back and ask them to reschedule? So next, we're going to listen to a call, and I'm going to cut it off short. We're going to listen to some of it. And I want you guys at the end of this in the chat to answer these questions. So be listening and be a critic. It's okay. And this is probably from about 10 years ago, so keep that in mind too.
Yes, I wanted to find out how much your services cost.
Sure, may I ask who's calling?
Sarah Sweeney.
Thank you, a moment.
Hey, Emily, you can't hear the call.
Cheryl, how may I help you?
Yes, I wanted to get some information on how much your services cost.
It depends on what you need. Can you fill me in a little bit?
Well, I'm looking to get some help for my grandfather. He is having some pretty severe problems, and we're looking at trying to get him into an assisted living facility, but I was told that you guys might be able to help out in the interim.
Okay. First of all, what area of town does he live in?
He lives in Oakland.
Oakland. Okay. I just wanted to make sure you were with the right office because each office has a little different parting structure. We have two different rates, and it's based on what his needs are. If he requires somebody to assist him with bathing, dressing, grooming, toileting, those kinds of things, we would send a personal care assistant, and that's $21 an hour, which includes everything from it includes meals, housework, laundry, shopping, errands, transportation to appointments, medication reminders, all those things. It also includes, the price also includes the caregivers are insured, bonded, covered with workers' compensation. They're trained, supervised. We handle all of the billing and payroll through the office, so there's no reason to pay the caregiver directly. The other type of services we have is what is called caregiver services, and it includes everything except the hands-on personal care, and that's at $19 an hour.
Is that about the typical rate that these services run? Or?
For employees, for companies that have employees, there's another business structure that's called a registry, which the caregivers are not employees. They're independent contractors. They're a little less. You have to pay the employee weekly. You have to pay the agency a fee, kind of a finder's fee. And then you have to look at your homeowner's insurance to make sure it covers independent contractors. You have to file tax forms and social security forms and things like that.
Goodness, okay.
But that's, they can do that for around $16 an hour. Typically those run about that rate.
Okay.
And then there's independent contractors, which you may be able to get a list of those from the hospital social service department.
Okay.
And the same thing would apply with the registry. They're not insured or bonded, so you have to make sure the homeowner's insurance or renter's insurance, whatever your grandfather does,
covers independent contractors, and then you're responsible for the taxes and social security filing those forms.
Gotcha. Okay.
So those are the three, in a non-medical realm of things.
Okay.
Those are the three business models. Independent contractors go for about $12 an hour. So 12, 16, 20, that kind of range, depending on what he can afford and the business model and what's associated with them all.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, definitely price is a concern, so I'll have to.
Let me ask, is he a veteran?
No, he's not.
Okay. Also, have you talked to the Area Agency on Aging?
No, I haven't. Is that something that might be able to help us out, or?
Exactly.
Okay. You said it
they
was an
have-
agency on aging?
Yeah, it's called the AAA, not to be confused with a travel service.
Okay.
But Allegheny County Area Agency on Aging is the full name.
Okay.
They have two programs which would cover the services that I think you're looking for. One is called WAVE.
So we're gonna stop playing that and let's engage in the chat. I'd love, Todd, for you to elaborate on your expression there. Well, let me pause you, Todd. Don't push send yet. What did she do well? Let's start with that. Let's follow this exercise. Somebody engage in the chat on what she did well. And sorry that the volume was hard to hear at first. I hope it got better. Mindy said, trying to help her, being very kind. Agreed. Very, very considerate and helpful, warm. Gave a lot of info. Okay, let's go to what did not go so well. And this might be that expression I saw in the chat from Todd. Timmy, diarrhea of the mouth. Yes, Todd. So I love that you pointed that out. Sarah thought it was turned off. That's how long it felt for Sarah, that person on hold also felt. So that's the value of a commercial or hold music. Too much information on the competitor. Yeah, Julie, not our services, just talking about everything but. All right, so perfect. Let's go to the next part of our presentation to keep diving into that. So follow the sales process, needs discovery. The way that we did it, that I strongly encourage, is to find out in the needs discovery process the basic information: name, loved one's name and relation, phone number, email, how they heard about us. Those 5 things were taught to my team as you do this first. There's a right way and a wrong way to do it. You do need to still be able to sound warm and kind and not feel like you're a robot or a call center. So what I often taught my team to do was to say, but just to make sure you've called the right place, and in case we get disconnected, I need to find a little bit of information about you first. And so just getting, and then you can go into checklist mode. Okay, name, loved one, etc. if you don't already have it. I'd say 75% of the time people are, to use Timmy's word, having diarrhea of the mouth when they call. And so to make that a more pleasant, they're just unloading. They're scared. This is the first time they've called, possibly looking for something like this for their
Well, it looks like Emily froze on us for a minute. We'll give her some time, but
one of you guys shoot her a text.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, everybody. Just give us a few minutes. Technology, it's great when it works.
Yeah, I sent her a message.
Okay.
She's fixing it. She said she's coming.
Sorry
She's
about that,
back.
guys. Oh, that's embarrassing. Don, I need you to enable participant sharing so I can get that pulled up. Guys, I apologize. Hopefully my team weren't mean to you during that time.
It's technology. It's all good.
They were just mean to you, Emily, not
Yeah,
them.
warranted. Are you guys seeing my screen now?
No, but you are a co-host.
Okay. Okay, here we go. All right, keep going. So tell me where I froze. Did I get basic information out of the way? Did you guys, that team, did they hear that?
Yeah,
No.
I think you should. It still the sound sounds a little funny. If you turn off your camera and just speak, I think we're gonna have better clarity on the sound.
And make sure you share your presentation because it has your notes.
Right now?
Yeah, we see the notes.
Well, I can't fix that. I'm just gonna speak to it instead. Can you guys hear me now?
Yep, loud and clear.
Okay. Okay, so with the sales process, you want to get the basic information out of the way, and then you want to go into open-ended questions. And so I think it's funny that an open-ended question is tell me more, but that is one of the better ones. It's kind of a statement. Tell me more about what's going on. It doesn't have a question mark at the end, but nonetheless, it's tell me more. And so that finding that out and getting more about the caller is really important. The next thing that you want to do is provide a solution. And oftentimes people provide a solution way too soon. We don't have enough information to really understand what the client needs before we're already telling them all about our services. And so I'm going to try one more time to share my screen and hope that this doesn't happen again. And I know you can see my notes, but that's okay with me. But is it better now? Can you see notes, or is it the right thing? Okay.
You're good.
Perfect. So the reason why I wanted to share my screen and make sure we didn't miss this with the last few minutes we have together is that flow. You want to start with needs discovery, then providing a solution, and then gaining a commitment, and make sure you don't jump in the wrong direction or too quick to the next thing. So basic information, you can see on this clip art, that is numbers 1 through 5 to the left. Open-ended questions is going to be the tell me more about what's going on. And one thing that's not noted here that I would want you to take as a nugget that I always taught my team to make sure they understood was that they said to the caller, tell me more about what you're facing. What are the challenges for you as the daughter? Whoever's calling, if it's the client calling for themselves, that's different. But don't forget the caller when you ask these open-ended questions, because you're going to get more information and you're making sure they feel heard and taken care of. Number 2, you want to provide a solution. And so this flow, if we pretend that arrow is there and moving down, we get to providing solutions after we've gotten enough information. And so real quick in the chat, we only have a couple minutes, real quick in the chat, tell me, somebody say what is an example of a feature of our services. What would be a feature of Home Instead services? Mindy says reliable, high quality care, peace of mind, peace of mind. I'll give a couple more before I elaborate. And you don't have to agree with what's in here. All right, so I would say the 2 peace of minds I want to point out, that's actually a benefit. Benefit is that it brings peace of mind. The feature might be, depending on the caller's situation, medication reminders. The feature might be meal preparation, transportation to doctor's appointments. So it's the tasks, it's the things. That's what a feature is. A benefit is a peace of mind. You could put reliable and high quality care kind of in the middle in the gray area as both a feature and a benefit, depending. But what I love about what I'm seeing here is that you're speaking to the benefits, and that's often the missed opportunity that your team is showing, that they don't actually do that. They talk about the features. That call we listened to, she was talking about features about not their services, but other services in the that could help them. But a lot of times our team members are just rattling off that, hey, we do med reminders, we do X, Y, and Z, we've got you. And that's good, but it's not good. It's not as it doesn't gain as much confidence in the caller. So it's important that they also speak to the benefit. Another quick analogy is I like to teach my team that oftentimes they fall into the trap of selling the minivan when someone came in wanting to buy a Corvette. And so they just wanted a sports car to go fast. And then they're telling them about the DVD player in the minivan or the OnStar safety and everything else. That's a common mistake that callers make. And so it's important that during the flow of this, and why using pen and paper is so helpful, is that during those open-ended questions, your team members going down to the features portion and writing in med reminders, writing in meal prep, just real quick chicken scratch to themselves, it's only for them, to make sure that when they get to the solutions, after this person's answered all the open-ended questions, that they provide the benefits that complements those features. And so another thing that I want to mention too, as that I just think is so key on how I taught my team, is to make sure, to answer the question, how do you know if you've got enough information and needs discovery? The way you know that is because you feel like worst case scenario, you could walk into their home and provide care to that senior loved one. And I don't mean that you would know everything about their care, but you know, hey, I need to make sure they get breakfast. I know they have dementia. I know that they're not going to remember to go to the bathroom themselves. You would have the basic information, not the full plan of care. And so that's how you know you have enough, and then you go into the solutions and speaking to them. And so the segue that I always used, let me back up a little bit. Needs discovery is asking questions and giving them the mic. It's theirs. You're leading the conversation. You have control of the conversation because you're asking questions, but it's their time to talk. When it gets to provide solution, then you take the mic back and you say to the caller, I want you to know you've called the right place. You mentioned needing help with medication reminders, helping with meals. All of those things we can help you with. And the benefit of that is you can go to work and have peace of mind to know mom is taken care of. And it's still, the mic is still yours. Then you shift to gain commitment. And so how do you do that? When you shift to gain commitment, you simply say that the next step is to schedule a care consultation with you and your loved one. So I want to just point out, you go from solution, the mic is yours, we've got you, however you choose to say it, and then the next step is. And so you're very confident in this is what you need to do. And on this note, I want to point out that you ask twice at the very least. So if they say, no, I need to think about it, I need to talk to my sister, whatever the case might be, find a way to ask twice with a different ask. So for example, if it's I need to talk to my sister, you might teach your team to say, your sister, we would love to include your sister in on the conversation. Why don't we schedule the consultation for next Monday or Tuesday so that she can be brought in before Monday or Tuesday, and we have time to meet with her at that time too. So assuming that the sister is going to be brought in, and you go ahead and close the meeting. Okay, for the sake of time, I'm going to go quickly through these slides. One thing to note here is that arrow being upside down is because if your team member has to go back to asking more questions after getting to solution or the commitment, they didn't do it well. They didn't do the needs discovery well. And there's nothing you can do about it live on that call, but they should learn that for next time that, oops, why didn't I do better on that? What debrief do they need to do to make sure they don't have that happen again? So continuing to gain commitment, you want to use an assumptive close. I've already sort of spoken to that, but an assumptive close is where you give them an option of 1 or 2, no matter what, it's going to happen. So in this case, we can do tomorrow at 1 or Friday at 4, which one works best for you and your family. So they're going to be meeting with you. It's just a matter of when. That's an assumptive close. Make sure you're teaching your team that, because by the way, they didn't go to a phone book, call this person and say, you need our services. This person called them and possibly came recommended by an RPN. So they need our services most likely. And your team should have confidence in that assumptive close. Okay, I'm gonna skip past questions. Hopefully you just throw them in the chat and Sam will interrupt me, but I wanna get through this because we are over time. Again, sorry for that internet issue. I just want you to be thinking about what are some subtle accountabilities you already have in place, and what are some new ones you might consider implementing, checklists and so on. You want to avoid the dreaded, oh, I didn't know that, whatever that is. So making sure you have systems in place to prevent that for any team member going through your working in your office. I'm going to skip this. Okay, real quick about us. We have a team. This is actually out of date. You don't see Sam on this. And so it also doesn't have our team member Juanita, but at this point, I think we're at over 70 years of experience, and we exist to support home care owners and try to surround them with support. There's different services we offer, but most important to this call today, I want to speak to our powerhouse peers, and that's our, as I said, our performance group on steroids. Tomorrow we have a special announcement on something that makes it even better than it already was, that I'm excited to introduce to you for your team as a whole, not just you as an owner. So tomorrow we're doing an informational webinar at 1:45 Central. You can, to get the lost revenue report tool, go to this link or scan this QR code and we'll get that sent to you. And also just make sure you mark your calendar for September 12th. Sam, this is a complete impromptu, but can you put the link to the chat, or if not, oh, she's on it. Wow, I'm so impressed because we did not talk about that beforehand. Good, way to go, Sam. All right, so with that being said, that's the link for tomorrow at 1:45 Central, 2:45 Eastern, and we're going to be talking about Powerhouse Peers and what it looks like and how it works for Home Instead. So I'm going to shut up now. I apologize again for my technical errors. I hope that not that everything would apply to you, but there's nuggets that you got for your business. And I'm going to turn this over back to Dawn. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Emily. Appreciate everybody's time today. Appreciate the team from E&I and Company being here with us and putting together this great information. I will be sending out an email later this afternoon with a reminder for the Powerhouse peers meeting, and then I'll send another reminder tomorrow. It has all the information and the links that you need. I'll send it out to the full membership, so you will all get that information in the next hour or so, and again in the morning. And yeah, I hope everybody has a great rest of your day, and we appreciate everybody being with us here this afternoon. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.